This video proudly sponsored by the Magic Candle Company. Visit the link in the description below and use code OFFHAND15 for 15% off your whole purchase. Hey guys, you ready for today's well, I knew I shouldn't have left this Haunted Mansion CD lying around. That's a tripping hazard. Oh no! Oh no, my awesome Haunted Mansion limited edition Hatbox Ghost figure is all busted up now. He's all broken. Oh, how am I ever gonna fix this? Well, hey, go ahead and add him to the list of Disney items that are never going to get fixed. Because it's a pretty long one. You know that list, the list of things that are broken that will never be fixed, like the People Mover at Disneyland, the Observatron at Disneyland, River Country at Walt Disney World, all of Innoventions at Epcot, Club Cool is broken, it's never coming back, the original Hatbox Ghost animatronic, apparently Buzzy's entire body. Now when you're walking around Walt Disney World and Disneyland, odds are you're walking around a well-maintained, beautiful theme park. Or you're walking around Hollywood Studios. I'm just kidding, obviously. But the Disney parks are known the world over for being very clean and very welcoming places for people to go in and enjoy. But little did you know, there's probably more broken stuff just lying around unused than you would think. Things like a multi-million-dollar monkey animatronic, and old attractions from days gone by that I can't shut up about. When it comes to apparently breaking things, Disney's pretty good at it. Whether we're talking broken ice effects on the Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland or barely breaking even on Euro Disneyland when it first opened. Sorry, I had to.
Euro Disneyland, officiellement ouvert.
These are broken items at the Disney theme parks that just really can't be fixed. Our first entry on this list takes us to the muggy swamplands, craggy, snowy peaks of Central Florida. Expedition Everest opened at Disney's Animal Kingdom in 2006 and remains one of its most popular e-ticket attractions even to this day. With an extremely intricate and well-themed queue featuring a Yeti museum, who doesn't like to walk through a good Yeti museum every now and then? And during the construction of the ride, the chief Imagineer behind designing the feel and the look of the attraction, Joe Rohde, kept promising an amazing animatronic never before seen in a Disney park.
There are many different ways that you see the Yeti. And you see the Yeti in the more elevated art that is associated with the Tibetan culture and the monastery and the fortress. And then you see the Yeti as a real living animal.
Throughout the figure, there are 19 separate functions that provide the motion that you see in the figure. The arm forward, the wrist, the elbow.
When I first ran it, I stood in front of it and, he just came right in front of my face and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is, really amazing. This is going to scare people.
And you know what they say, don't make a promise if you don't intend on keeping it. And Disney was very true to their word. When the ride opened in 2006, the Yeti was there, and he was terrifying. Throughout the ride, you would get glimpses of the Yeti's existence, from footprints to claw marks, and then finally at the end of the track, you will see that there isn't really an end to the track, he ripped it all up. And as your train begins to descend back into the mountain, backwards might I add, you begin to hear the Yeti roar as he approaches your location. Upon entering a large cavern, you see shadows on the wall, and you can begin to tell that this ride isn't going exactly the way that they had planned. The Yeti rips up the track, again causing lots of money and property damage. Yeti, you gotta calm down, man. And then this time, your train lurches forward as you try to escape the giant monkey pursuing you through the Himalayan mountaintops. And in 2006, you would pass through a few more caves before you would finally come face to face with it. A giant, lumbering, 25-foot tall Yeti animatronic swinging at you as you pass underneath it. Did you get that? Do we need to run that past you again? Let's go ahead and take another closer look. This animatronic was absolutely massive and purportedly had slobber dripping from its face as you traveled underneath it. Pretty gross, but I think helps boost that immersion, gives you an extra sense to appreciate the ride with. And here, everyone, lies a case of Disney trying to go as big and as grand as they possibly can and not quite sticking the landing. Just a few months after the ride opened in 2006, the foundation that the Yeti was standing on began to crack, and that's obviously not a good thing in a very high-speed attraction. In addition to the Yeti figure's framing beginning to split, Disney had no other option but to put the animatronic into B mode. B mode meaning a less advanced movement system for the animatronic, and in some cases no movement system at all. And that's exactly what happened. In order to prevent further damage to the Yeti and its foundation, the figure's movements were turned off completely. In order to give the figure some sort of illusion of movement, a strobe light was put next to the Yeti and fans were blown on its fur to make it look like it was lunging at you, but it was completely stationary, thus earning the nickname Disco Yeti for for all time and all eternity. I mean, his eyes still glow and he's looking at you. That gives him a bit more of a creepiness factor, which is good. And here with this very, very illegal video being shot from inside Expedition Everest, you can get a normal, non-shaky look at the giant animatronic and see exactly what we're dealing with. And Disney fans, you know, for all we knew, the Yeti would be broken forever. That is until D23 in 2013, when Joe Rohde was asked a question about the Yeti and answered with this.
You have to understand, it's a giant, complicated machine sitting on top of like a 46-foot tall tower in the middle of a finished building. So, it's really hard to fix, but we are working on it. And we continue to work on it. We have tried several things. None of them quite get to the key turning of the 40-foot tower inside of a finished building, but we are working on it. And I personally, you know, kind of bulldog this one in a way that doesn't always make me popular, but I will fix the Yeti someday, I swear. I can personally vouch for the personal fact that I intend to try to see.
So, Yeti fans rejoice because one day we might be able to ride Expedition Everest with the Yeti in its full, moving, roaring glory, but until then, we'll just have to make do and wonder about the future of the giant, unmoving, stalwart ape inside Mount Everest. Tikis. Do you guys like tikis? I do. I like them a lot. And there's no better place besides, you know, Hawaii and New Zealand and the Polynesian people themselves than the tiki room to experience tiki culture. And of course, we all know the tikis from the pre-show. We have Pele, the goddess of fire and volcanoes. Ngende, of course, the earth balancer. Maui, the mighty one. Rongo, god of agriculture. Koro, the midnight dancer. Tongaroa Ru, the goddess of the east wind. And who could forget Hina, the goddess of rain. And last up is Tongaroa, father of all gods and goddesses, of course voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft. Who else? These tikis are all part of the pre-show for Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland, but you may be forgetting one that has been missing for quite some time. The story of the lost tiki known as Uti. Now Uti, along with the rest of the tikis in the pre-show and most of the tikis inside the actual tiki room, were sculpted by Rolly Crump. And when the tiki room opened in 1963, Uti was standing there above the whole thing looking down at guests. She stood high above Adventureland with the Barker bird, who was also a broken Disney item that was never fixed. Uti was the goddess of fishing, which is why she was holding a fish impaled on a giant dinner fork. She stood in a giant wooden canoe underneath the thatched roof of the tiki room and was one of the most intricate figures carved by Rolly. And she stood tall and proud over the tiki room until one weird day in the mid-90s where her fiery torch was for some reason turned off. And then on January 8th of 2000, the entire A-frame on which Uti sat collapsed due to wood rot. Rotten wood, gross. People hoped and prayed that Uti would be reinstalled to her rightful place above the tiki room, but Paul Pressler was the president of Disneyland. Nothing got fixed. Yeah, he was bad. He was a bad Disneyland president. Uti was unceremoniously removed, but she was saved and stored backstage in a cast member only area. That is until one day when a rogue cast member decided to pry Uti from her boat and take her home as a souvenir. So that guy was a real jerk. Her stand above the Tiki Juice Bar, where today you can find delicious, delicious Dole Whips, was never refurbished. Although a replica of her without her canoe and her flaming torch still stands at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort in Orlando to this very day. You can still see her. But as for the original, she remains a piece of Disneyland history, unfortunately broken and lost forever. And now for the granddaddy of broken Disney effects, we stay in Adventureland at Disneyland, and I can guess where you think I'm going with this. Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, also known as the Indiana Jones Adventure. This ride has lots of names. And on that point, another thing this ride has a ton of is theming, one of the most well-themed queues at a Disney park I've ever experienced. All of which serves to prepare you for the exciting, yet albeit a little bit bumpy Jeep ride you'll be riding in just a few moments. If you look very closely at your surroundings, the first ruin effect we're going to talk about in this ride happens as soon as you board your Jeep. Nowadays, you enter the Chamber of Destiny through the middle door and the middle door only and always. Newer projection effects give the illusion that you're going into a sort of differently themed room, but you're always going through that middle door. But when the ride first opened in 1995, this was not the case. You see, back before this effect was broken, you would always enter the Observatory of the Future through the left door,
The future. I will lift the curtain of time. It is your destiny.
the Fountain of Youth through the right door,
You have chosen wisely. This path leads to timeless.
and the Chamber of Earthly Riches through the middle door, always.
You seek the treasure of Mara, glittering gold. It is yours.
This effect was achieved by having only one true door and the walls rotating around the doors, if that makes sense. Look at this GIF, it explains it all. And you can even spot a remnant of this effect today. If you look to the left when you enter the dark hallway, you see a wall full of mirrors. And if you look closely here, you can see the walls moving in these mirrors. This, of course, to make it look like you're entering a different door every single time you ride the attraction. Pretty cool. And those mirrors remain on that wall to this very day as a remnant of that lost effect. As of 2015, the effect no longer works, which means 5 years we have gone without this super cool moving walls. Some say that the moving wall facade weighed too much and was beginning to strain the ceiling on which it was suspended from. Others say that the machine was broken off of its hinges. Either way, it was very dangerous and the effect was turned off. But there was one more special effect toward the beginning of the ride that I want to talk about in this video, and it's one you're probably familiar with, and that is the famous falling ice rubble at the very beginning. Nowadays, when you enter the very large Chamber of the Forbidden Eye, you see the Mara statue in the distance shooting beams of light different directions, and one eventually hits the ceiling. And after the beam hits, you hear rubble fall to the ground in front of you. Now obviously now there are no falling rocks, but back in 1995, for a couple months after the ride opened, there was. Take a look at this video recorded by Richard Small in 1995, shortly after the ride's opening. If you look really closely, you can see the effect in action. Do you see that? Do we need to go over that again? Look very closely this time. You can see the glowing sort of rocks fall from the ceiling, but in all actuality, these weren't really rocks, they were ice cubes. When the ride first opened, there was an ice machine attached to a conveyor belt, which would move the ice to the dropping point before it would drop every 18 seconds. Or at least that's what it said on all the promotional material before the ride opened. The most commonly accepted reason that this effect no longer works is that because the ice had to drop every 18 seconds, the machine that made it was constantly getting backed up. And because the machine was so backed up, the ice would eventually melt and the machine would eventually begin to rust. And in order to replace the machine, a large portion of the roof would have to be removed. We know from earlier cases that Disney doesn't want to do that, and the entire apparatus would have to be replaced. So Disney does what Disney do, and they shut off the effect forever. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those were 4 lost Disney effects and items that will never be replaced as far as we know. And trust me, there are a lot, and I mean a lot more effects in the Indiana Jones adventure that I could have covered in this video, but maybe I'll save that for the future. Is there anything I missed in this video? Maybe a certain broken animatronic that will never again see the light of day, or certain people moving Disneyland attraction whose track is so fundamentally broken that they'll never be able to bring it back no matter how much I beg and no matter how much I plead. Go ahead and let me know in those comments down below. And maybe, one day if we all bring our wrenches to Disney World and we ask Disney very politely, maybe they'll let us fix the Yeti on our own. I mean, we'll figure it out, right? Hey everybody, just dropping in here to say thank you all so much for watching. I know it's been a little while since I posted a video and I'm sorry for that, but I'm back and I'm here to make videos for you guys a little bit more often. As you can see, scrolling right here, I have all of my Patreon supporters for the month of February. If you're interested in joining this list and getting perks, go ahead and head over to the link in the description to my Patreon. And if you want to support the channel in another way, head to the link in the description that leads to the Magic Candle Company. They have candles that, hold on, smell and remind you of the Disney World resorts and Walt Disney World. Here I have a churro flavored candle. don't eat these. They're not churro flavored, it's churro scented. But it smells just like a Disneyland churro. So if that's something that interests you, go to the link in the description, use offer code OFFHAND15 for 15% off your purchase. And everybody, again, thank you so much for watching this video. I know I've been really busy recently, and I will see you all in the next one. It's going to be coming out a little sooner than it took to make this one. So thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.